Welcome to Flatfoots and Fools, a podcast about detective games. I'm Andrew, and as usual, I'm joined by my partner, John. How are you doing today?
It's cold. It's cold, and I'm glad to finally have time to play some games during the new year. So trying to punch through my backlog.
Nice. Yeah, it is less cold here, which is weird to say because I'm several hundred kilometers further north, but it's minus 10 Celsius here.
Yeah, that's not a number I understand.
Probably like 5-10 degrees.
It's not about the Fahrenheit part, Fahrenheit Celsius. It's just I don't understand experiencing that level of cold. But thank you for the translation to freedom units.
Yes, ish. Yeah, and you guys have more snow than us, so I'm a little jealous about that.
Oh man, the snow the other week in New York, that was fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we keep getting a little drizzling equivalent, but with snow, just a little dusting here and there. Just enough to make things sparkle.
The sad thing with modern remote work and remote school ability is no more snow days for students.
Ooh, I never thought about
Yeah,
that.
man. It sucks. So I did spend that day playing a little bit of video games, even though it's technically on the clock because I can work remote. But I did play hooky a little bit, and I played Riley and Rochelle on that day.
That sounds like a good snow day. But today, we are here to utter a name. Game from Evil Albert in 2025. So, how would you describe this game, John?
It was hard as hell. It was so hard. I have it in my notes twice when I was playing the game. It's so hard. It reminds me so much of like old school stuff, not just the pixels and the artwork, but it was spooky and it didn't start you with any instructions. You're just in front of a house.
Yeah, I don't think it even had like basic controls listed initially. Like it would give you a contextual button press. So like if you got near something you could interact with, like it would highlight a little E in the corner to be like, yes, you can use E to interact with this.
And E was not for everyone, man. It kind of expected you to know the basics of things. It's 2D, and when I was like looking over my notes today, and like it's pretty much a side scroller.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just like imagine Mega Man playing this or being in this game.
Yeah. So like it's a very highly atmospheric, I would say supernatural detective story.
Mm-hmm.
And you show up at the front door of a house full of corpses and ghosts, and your job is to figure out what happened to everyone by assigning every ghost their name and then identifying who killed them.
And you utter their name because names have power.
Mm-hmm. And if we're being reductive, it's a shorter two-dimensional Return of the Obra Dinn, but that's being very reductive.
I was reading about anything you Google about this game. The creator always says like, I was inspired by Obra Dinn. This is just much harder.
Yeah.
What made it harder though?
I think on paper it's a shorter case. So there was 15 identities instead of the 60 from Obra Dinn. For me, getting the layout of the house took a little while. It felt harder to place myself in time and space. I also suspect that there was less redundant cluing. And just because there's less characters, the kind of inherently the difficulty curve has to ramp up faster. For me, at least, I had to explore pretty much the entire story before I could figure out who the three easiest people were to identify and lock in. And then it kind of cascades from there. But that took a little while.
Yeah, and I think that's what made it so much harder. Like Obra Dinn gave you chapters and large bite-sized chunks. So like Obra Dinn gave you like slices of the pizza at a time, and then utter name is like, yo, here's the whole pizza. Yo, have at it. You have the entirety of the building. You could have just like wandered around and just like doing things piecemeal. Just the overwhelming ability to explore the whole house from the jump made it feel, yeah, that's the word, overwhelming.
Yeah, and we're specified identities are confirmed in batches of 3. So you have to get at least 3 of them right, which means you need to identify 3 people and identify who killed them. So you sort of have to have a grasp on at least half the story before you're really going to figure out, okay, who also killed these people. Whereas when you've got 60 fates to play with, you can get a lot more variation in difficulty level. And also you don't need to understand as much of the overall story before you can start to really lock things in.
I remember in this game when you finally get the guest list for the wedding, I was so happy. It's like, oh my God, there's a guest list, thank God.
Mm-hmm. That's a huge moment. That one and the staff list helps out as well.
Oh, yeah.
Between those two, it's like, okay, now I've got a name list at least.
Yeah, I got the important people.
Mm-hmm. It's a 1-bit color scheme. It's a black and white, maybe some other dark color and white. For controlling, you're mostly just using WASD to move around the space, and then you use spacebar or E to interact with things. It felt kind of clunky to me at first. It took me a little while to sort of get used to the convention, because when you approach a set of objects, you can sort of use W and S to select between which
Mhm.
one you're going to highlight. And I jumped in thinking that was only for like big movement. I was like, man,
Mm.
how do I select this piece?
I think I played this one mostly on the Steam Deck. So having a controller, it was like really well built for controller.
Oh, that makes really good sense.
Because it felt like a side scroller, yeah. Because you couldn't go up and down, you just left or right, enter a building and stuff like that. So when I was like going today, I'd completely forgotten how to play.
Yeah, saying it works for a controller, that really makes a lot of sense now. Any other thoughts you have on this before we dive into the spoilers?
No, let's go.
Before that, though, we should specify, like, do we recommend this game for people?
It's a bite-sized chunk game. It is hard as hell. If you're playing this on the go, it's a nice 2-hour game. I see why everyone likes it.
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend it.
Same. Definitely, it's like a 2-ish hour experience, but much more on the tough side as opposed to Duck Detective games, which were a 2-hour experience, but not meant to just make you feel hopeless.
Yeah, Duck Detective is more appetizer, desserts. This is main course. You feel full. I really suggest playing this on the Steam Deck also, because you're on the Steam Deck, you're not in front of a computer, you might not have internet, so you can like really focus on it. So it's a good travel game. 2 hours is probably really good for a flight.
Mm-hmm.
And it came out almost exactly a year ago from the date we're recording this. It came out looks like February 19.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I didn't check the month. But yeah, that's where we're coming down on it. And now we are entering the spoiler zone. You have been warned. So yeah, in terms of story and characters, this has got a bunch of people come to a house for a wedding. And you see that in some of the first chronological scenes. And then while that's going on in parallel, you can see what appears to be the setup for some sort of body switching.
Yeah, you got body horror in this. It's so sad. It's so messed
Mm-hmm.
up.
Yeah. And so there appears to be several plotted body switchings to happen. And then all hell absolutely breaks loose after the body switching starts, which is about midway through the story. The owners of the house try to resurrect their long dead son. They kind of get what appears to be a guy they're not really related to and then swap their son's soul into that body. And he becomes a murderous shambler. So you're trying to piece all of this together, and it makes it very difficult because when you're trying to figure out who killed who, you need to identify the soul that was in the body, not just who originally owned the body. And because the body swapping, this can be a bit of a challenge.
I forgot about that. That did make it more difficult because you see the person and you don't know who's driving that car.
Mm-hmm. Fortunately, you get these psychic visions of the past. And in those, if somebody's had a body swap, I think they look like there's a weird outline on them.
Yeah.
And so you get that. And then the way the shambler kills people, sort of like by touching them and like draining their energy and turning them into a dust pile. The corpse is fairly distinctive. So when someone dies from the shambler, you've got a pretty good idea versus when someone dies from anything else,
Mm-hmm.
say being thrown off a roof, they've got a much more intact body.
They got Thanos snapped.
Mm-hmm. So that helps. And then when you talk to each ghost, they say a little sort of one line to you. And that one line ends up making a lot more sense once you've pieced together all of the identities. So you can see some documents. And these documents list the rules of the soul. And you need to give somebody this special spiritual wine that loosens the connection between their body and their soul. And that's how they end up doing a lot of the body switching, as well as with this pendant, the necklace thing.
The necklace thing is what gives everything its power, right?
I think so. Again, it's not super clear. And so you see down in the basement, they've got a little room that's where they're doing the body swapping. It's got the 4 rules of the soul listed there, but the piece of paper is ripped on the bottom. And then later you can go up to Jane's study and you can see the 5th rule of the soul, which lists, if someone's been out of their body for a really long time, when they come back, they're going to be a murderous shambler. And that leaves me with a big question. If Jane knew this, why did she still try and resurrect her son?
Because you do anything to bring a kid back. That's the basis of the story.
I was thinking that, but there was another possibility that popped up in my mind.
Mm.
That she knew that was happen and was using it as a distraction so she could steal her niece's body. And it's just a theory because Jane is sort of the wife of the owner of the house.
Mm.
And her sister writes a note and says, hey, my daughter has the psychic gift, so we'll need you to pass the family heirloom to her, which is that gem necklace.
Hmm.
And it seems that Jane doesn't really have the gift. And so I was thinking, well, she comes from this psychic family and she's currently got the heirloom. Maybe she was jealous of the niece having the gift and her not, so she'd want to steal the body, which she eventually does do.
We were talking about before this. I don't remember them saying who the investigator is, who you're playing as.
So it never specifies, but you can match the ghost of the niece has the same outfits as the body you're currently wearing. And she even says, like, my body.
Ah, yeah. That's the death. When you look at the names of all the people, that's the line that's under her name.
And she'll say that when you go to interact with her.
No, my body.
Yeah, and one of the scenes is them kidnapping, but they don't exactly take her very far. But yeah, restraining and chloroforming the niece, I assume to swap bodies. And then there's a body there that isn't the niece's. And I think that's Jane's original body.
Is Jane the one that got her throat slit?
She's the one who did the throat slitting.
Oh, that's right.
Or Jane's body's throat was slit. But we know earlier Jane was doing the throat slitting in that body. Like she does that to the personal servant.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe her aunt or her sister as well. I'm not totally sure.
I got my notes trying to remember who killed who.
I mean, she racked up 3 bodies, I think.
That's enough to be a serial killer.
Yeah, so that was sort of my other possible explanation, was that she knew what was going to happen and was like, well, I can use the chaos around this to steal.
To have a longer lifespan?
Have a longer lifespan, have psychic powers, which she doesn't seem to have had previously, keep the family heirloom, but murdering your entire family and a bunch of other people as well seems a bit overkill as collateral damage.
That's serial killer level. A lot of bodies.
Yeah.
Small wedding, though.
Just, close family and a friend or two. In addition to Jane wanting to swap into the niece's body, they put their long dead son's body into the kind of random guy.
The son-in-law was a groom, right?
Oh, the son goes into the random guy. The other one goes to the groom. So Lucas is marrying Charlotte, but there's another guy, Cyrus, who was jealous and wanted to marry Charlotte. And he finds out their plan somehow and kind of blackmails them into helping him swap bodies with Lucas. So he still gets to marry Charlotte, but in someone else's body.
That's so fucked up.
Yeah, so all of this is going on in parallel, which makes unraveling this mess quite fun.
I remember that is why this was so damn hard. I think in the end, I did need helps. I don't remember if this game had a help or clue system. I don't think it does.
I don't recall any kind of hints or cluing.
Yeah. It's short enough where I guess a hint system would detract from it.
Yeah, it's not particularly easy to brute force. I mean, I guess you could, but it'd still be pretty tough, especially because the system for entering things in is not terrible, but it's not very quick and easy to do.
Was this the first game this developer made?
In this area, yes. I believe this developer has worked on other completely unrelated projects.
Fair enough.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, this is the only game in our wheelhouse the dev has done.
Okay.
Well, Lucas Pope, I guess, did 2, if we count Papers, Please as being in our wheelhouse.
Papers, Please was also one of the super hard games.
So what other parts of this story did you really enjoy or have trouble with?
It was mostly the figuring out the story and having it unfold. It felt like a piecemeal manner. I remember like Chekhov's gun theory, right? Someone has a rifle, but you don't have ammo. I knew that was going to be something to look for later, which was nice foreshadowing, little context clues of things that were engraved. It was just so spread out that it made it more difficult. Still, again, short game, but you have to get the whole picture before you can figure out like the little details. And man, it's just so much death in that house. But that's what these mysteries are.
That's quite literally a house full of bodies. And turns out you, the investigator, are responsible for some/all of them, depending on how you interpret events.
Yeah, I didn't think about the investigator until we were about to record tonight. And being one of the people at the wedding is just so much more brutal. It makes sense. And I kind of wish it didn't, but that's not the kind of games we play.
Yeah, at least not this one.
Nah.
Or I should say, especially not this one.
We need to figure a happier one in the future, man.
Oh, yeah, we can do that. I mean, the next one we've got coming up would be probably happier. Should be the root trees. You don't even see any bodies there.
Yeah, but I got to play another Duck Detective, man. Duck Detective was a good palate cleanser, a good soul cleanser.
So sort of wrapping up on Utter and Name, I wanted to branch into more general thoughts on the sort of the Obra Dinn formula. And the thing that I and many other people have noticed is that Obra Dinn comes out in 2018, and there aren't any games that are directly Like, oh, I'm going to make Obra Dinn mechanically, but then with my own story. In the same way that something like Case of the Golden Idol has come out, and there's been quite a few other developers who have said, oh, hey, I can do one of those, but I'll write my own story and mystery for it.
You make it sound like a Telltale formula.
It's not quite that level, but yeah, it's a much easier act to follow and replicate. And I'm sort of trying to think about, okay, well, Obra Dinn was this pivotal moment that inspired everyone, including Golden Idol. And a lot of people have taken little bits and pieces from it, or even larger bits and pieces, but never sort of the whole thing at once. And Utter a Name is kind of the only game that's really taken a swing at it. And even that, it's not interacting in a full 3D space. So you could say it's still not even a full swing.
I would argue that it's still really, really close. Because one of the things about Obra Dinn and Utter a Name that have in common that we haven't mentioned is the music. And the music in Utter a Name, it's a lot of piano. So the atmosphere in a Victorian house at a wedding, it really added to the themes, as well as like Obra Dinn, the ambient noise of the ship, of the rain, really added a huge atmosphere because you're walking through the house. Whereas when we were playing the Golden Idol series, because those are static pictures, you don't have that same feeling of motion and investigating.
Yeah, like you're not physically present in the scene investigating it. It is just a diorama that's there.
It's a Where's Waldo?
Yeah, we did that as an icebreaker at work on Friday.
Huh, Where's Waldo?
Yeah, pulled a big Where's Waldo panel into our Miro board.
Huh.
But it turns out it doesn't work as well for non-Americans because they're not used to it.
About Finding Waldo?
Yeah, it's not as popular in some other places.
Fair.
Yeah, it was just an interesting comparison between these games. And, a really big part of it is that Obra Dinn took a highly experienced developer 3.5 years to build. And I think not a lot of other single developers are going to look at that and say, hey, I want to take a swing at one of those. And in a way, this is kind of an example of how could you strip down the scale while trying to preserve the formula and the vibes, for lack of a better term.
I would argue the vibes are similar. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. On some levels, there's only one exact game in that lineage.
I mean, nobody wants a carbon copy of another game, usually. But this is pretty close to the vibes. Another TPK.
Oh, yeah. So, what have you been playing lately?
Back to Helldivers, and so there's some new things. I keep looking at Disco Elysium and just being, oh no. I beat 2 other games recently, so that's been good. 2 games that we'll review in the future. I don't know if I mentioned, I played Dispatch in December. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a good one. My wife absolutely loved that. I just replayed the base game of the Root Trees, which I had done a while ago. I'm now properly doing Root Tree Mania for the first time. I got a ways into it and then I got sidetracked with other stuff and stopped, so I hadn't finished it before.
Is Root Tree Mania not part of the original game?
No, it's new to the Steam version.
Oh, I have thoughts about that.
Oh yeah, we're carving out an episode for that.
Spoiler to everybody. Don't start Root Trees at 11 p.m. and knowing you have work in the morning.
Yep.
I will explain that later.
That'll be really good because I actually was chatting with one of the people who worked on the Root Trees because I was in the Discord and I finally found the thing, which we'll get into in that episode. And someone's like, man, you've been here around for a while. This is your first time finding the thing? And then we started going into why.
I look forward to finding out what the thing is.
Yeah. Because there's a Discord channel for it. And I've always wanted to know, what was the thing? Why are people saying this? So now, digging into Root Tree Mania, and I have Disco on pause. I finished the second day, and I'm looking forward to diving back into that because the canal bridge gets repaired on the third day. It'll open up another chunk of the game.
Gotten halfway through the first day. I need to be a good headspace for that game. It's just so depressing.
Oh, yeah. Agreed. And especially that first part of that first day can really feel like a slog.
Mm-hmm.
I think I didn't get into the zone until the end of the first day. That's sort of when things started to click a lot better. And then remembering to save frequently, because I'm really glad I did. There was one where it's oh, I'm going to go talk to this really important guy. I'll make a save right before it. And sure enough, I got killed by a tiny plastic chair. So it was absolutely worth watching that happen, laughing at it, and then reloading the save to start that again and being okay, let's not push the buttons that get me killed by the plastic chair.
I'll have to keep that in mind when I see a plastic chair.
Yes. It was evil, I think. Or maybe it wasn't. The drama stat tends to play up stuff over whether or not it's evil, so that can get
Ah,
out of hand quickly. Finished up a long Europa Universalis 5 campaign, and now I'm
hmm.
waiting for their next big patch to drop, which will be anytime. So that's always good. Yeah, and then I keep getting recommended a game called No Case Should Remain Unsolved.
Oh yeah, that's on my next to play list.
I got to finish Root Tree Mania first. I have an actual deadline for that. But then that'll be my short game because people are saying it's about 3 hours. So should be a nice quick one. Someone said they ugly cried afterwards. So I'm not
Ooh,
assuming it's a duck detective palate cleanser.
ooh, this might be death of a child thing. I might need a safety net for this one then.
I don't know anything about it yet.
Generally, I go into these things like not knowing anything. But like one of my big triggers in life is like death of a child. Little girl goes missing from a playground. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
okay. Yep. This is gonna be emotional for me. I'll play this like right before therapy then.
Yeah, we can cut out a time for it and make sure it's not going to be a problem.
I can talk about my feelings nowadays.
All right. Anything else you want to cover before we close out?
By the time this comes out, the episode for Her Story would have been released. And that's been
Mhm.
something I've been looking forward to because then I can like point it to my friends and be like, hey, you don't play video games, but you love true crime. You should try this one out. So maybe you are somebody I push that to and you are listening to us because of that. If so, welcome aboard. Welcome to Logic Puzzles and Detective Train.
We're happy to have you here. And you can find us on Blue Sky at Flatfoots and Fools, one word. You can join our Discord to talk about any detective games. We'll have a link in the show notes. Podcast is edited by Peter Crevier, podcast art by Lolita Gross, and music by Antonic Music. Have a great night.
We need a better outro.